Alright, so this is our mower on now. By the way, if you see an old quad frame laying over there, we'll get to that later on. It was basically, literally, pulled out of a hedge. You'll see all that in an upcoming video, but hopefully that can rescue that there. But that's for another video. So just in case you see it in the background, we'll get to that later on. Anyway, it's the mower we're on today. It needs a little bit of maintenance. Just a quick gun over that I do every year before I take it out and start using it. And the first job of all of those is, it won't work with the way that PTO shaft is. And that PTO shaft is too long. The last tractor this was on was the case. As all of you remember, if you're new to the channel, we used to have it on a case 895. So this shaft here is ever so slightly too long. So I've already measured it to see what length I actually need. So I'm going to take it down to the shed now. I'm going to shorten that first. One little thing I want to show you before we shorten that shaft is, do you see that dent there? I was finishing actually in that field there. That's the field I was in. I was going down just doing the last two passes of it. And this guy here, this is a breakaway. Designed with a spring-loaded system here. If you hit anything here on this, it's designed that it will break away. Basically go back without breaking anything on the mower. Most mowers will have something like this. But that's held together by this pin. And this clip decided to open and this pin fell out, which led to this here completely came off and it went straight around. Now normally in the breakaway it only goes around a certain amount that allows the PTO shaft basically not to get pulled apart. And when this opened, it went way too far around. The PTO shaft just literally pulled apart here, and it's at high revs, and it spun here, and it was an awful clatter. And thankfully, this was on the case of course, but thankfully it did no harm to the tractor. It made bits of the shaft, bent the shaft into bits and put this nice little dent there, which I don't mind, but the shaft got an awful doing. So if you ever do buy one of these or something similar, always check, see what way that is, put a bolt in it instead, it'll be much safer. So that's another little thing we're going to do before we set this mower out to work. The easiest way to do it is basically take the exact same amount off both sides. You need to also remove the same amount from the plastic cover so the whole thing will close tight together. Alright, so that's the shaft back on. We now have that much clearance to move back and forth, which is plenty. It's all greased up, it's moving nice and freely. The guards, the chains are all back on, so that job is complete. Now, let's go back to this pin. The more I look at this pin, the more I want to do something else with it. I want to pop this pin out, because if you look at there, there's very little clearance. It's a very short pin and it actually opens from both sides. But what I'm going to do is, I'm going to try loosen this, get this pin out of here altogether, and I'm going to weld the washer onto that side. That's going to leave this pin coming down further. And then I'm going to get a washer like this that fits over it, and I'm going to put a bolt right through this side here. That's it. I just threw forward a wee bit and that took the strain of this. Now it's just a matter of popping it out. There we go. The other thing I want to do is I want to bore this hole out a little bit bigger to put a bigger bolt through it, because that's quite a small little hole and it'll only hold a small little bolt. So I want to bore that out just a little bit bigger. Just a wee bit of out lube. the washer on here, it just fits nice and snug over it. Get that bite through. So I put a little knock nut, I put a little lock nut on the end of it here, because when the bolt goes in, I want it to be able to turn freely around, so it sits kind of more central, and it's not going to hit again this when the pin moves back and forth. Not going to tighten it too tight, because it doesn't need to be tightened tight. But that's it, that pin there now will not come out again. What do you reckon, Hudson? What do you reckon? Good job. Attaboy. Next job is to replace the blades on this. Now if you can see the blades, we're going to show you what a new one looks like before we tear into them, but the blades on this definitely need to be replaced. I have got away with these blades from day one. I haven't broken a blade yet. I've sharpened them and I've swapped them around quite a bit. These are a double-edged blade, so you can move them back and forth to use both sides. They're a different blade than a lot of you might see. A lot of you might see the grass cutting blade, which is flat and is much easier broken than these. So these blades here, they're rounded topped. You'll see the new ones when they go on now in a minute. I had this mower, I think now 8 years, and it has done a lot of work. It was going all the time non-stop, so it has seen a lot of work. So it does deserve a set of blades, definitely does. It's long overdue, so let's put them on now. One thing I'm seeing straight away is that these bolts are different. Yeah, I hope there's not a problem here. These bolts are shorter and different. Well, there's only one way of finding out. Yeah, I don't think that's any good. No bother. Good luck, good luck, good luck. The old bolts that came out, in fairness, there's no wear on them whatsoever, so I'm going to put the old bolts back in. I'll put new lock nuts on the top. But yeah, we'll just leave them at that because them ones there don't fit. So that's that job done. So that was relatively easy and straightforward. The next one mightn't be so easy and straightforward because I want to change the oil in the bed of this mower. I haven't done it. I can't remember the last time I've done it, and that's a bad sign. I think I've done it once since I bought the mower. I know, but that is the truth. I've done it once since I bought the mower, maybe after the second or third year. So I want to change the oil in it. Normally what you do is you heat up the bed, get it nice and hot, open your drain plug, slope your bed towards that drain plug and let it sit there probably overnight. Let it drain slowly. I want to get it done today because I want to do a bit of topping this evening. It's only gone 10 o'clock in the morning now, so we might do the gearbox. I'll look at that after and see what the levels is like in the gearbox. We might do that as well. There'll be no harm. It's the same oil that goes into it. Suppose there's no point in talking about it. Let's just get at it. And it loosens. Oh, thank Christ, it loosens. Alright, we're not going to loosen it yet, just wanted to make sure that it does loosen. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the mower back down the ground, I'm going to run it, get it nice and hot, and then I'm going to leave this draining for a couple of hours, get as much out of it as we can, and then when we have that done, we'll put some fresh new oil into it. Right, this is nice and warm now. Just going to drop this plug out. It came out a lot quicker than I thought it was. Now I'm going to have to get some sawdust and throw it on that and gather that up. But to be honest with you, it looks alright. We're going to see what's in this container then and match up the two. add a little bit for the spillage, and that'll be it. We'll put the exact same amount back in as we took out. That's it, all drained out. That actually didn't take very long. It drained till it nearly completely stopped. Within half an hour it was all drained out. That's the kind of beauty of warming it up before you drain it. I threw plenty of dust on top of where the oil is spilt. I have no sawdust, so dust does the exact same thing. Just sweep out the shed on top of it, and the dust will soak it all up, and then I can sweep it all up after a day or so, and there'll be no trace of oil left. Just in case you want to know how I slope the bed, or just in case, for a matter of interest, how I slope the bed up to get the oil out, I just use my axle stands. Large one at the end, smaller one kind of halfway down. It held the whole thing lovely and secure, so that's kind of what I use, whether it makes any difference or not, but that's what I used anyway. Next job is I have to measure what oil came out. Now, I was told it holds about 1.75 litres of oil. Now, you can't go with that either at the same time, because it mightn't all drain out, so you need to kind of just replace exactly what you took out. I can't see any sparkles in it, which is great. Means there's no metallic that I can see in it whatsoever. You'll always get bits wear and tear, and you'll see it in the oil. Some of them have a little magnetic sump plug where all the little shavings and things will stick to the end of the sump plug, and I think that's actually a good idea. It's not there on that one unless there's a magnet somewhere else, and there's no magnet in there, and I think there should be, because I think it's a good design. Catches all them shavings and holds onto them. But anyway, moral of the story is here now, we need to replace what we took out. I'm having to pump it in with this lad here instead, because I couldn't put it in with the other. It just would not go in. It was airlocking the whole time. No matter how slow I went, it was airlocking. So I'm just using this guy here that I use to suck out the oil from the quads and things, which is very handy. So I'm going to have a quick look at the gearbox. It is starting to rain. The rain is never far away, unfortunately. We're going to have a quick look at this gearbox. I mightn't change the oil. I'll have a quick look at it and see what it's like. And if it's not bad, I'll leave it alone. Do you know what? The oil level's okay, but when we're doing this, might as well just do it. It's done then, and I have to look at it again for a long time. So, yep, stick that in there. Let's change the oil. Just put that back on there now. I'll tighten in a minute when that rain quits. There's one more grease nipple tucked in on there. You'd nearly forget about it or nearly miss it because you wouldn't see it, but it's there. And it just does that centre pivot across there, which does move quite a bit, so it's nice to get a bit of grease in that. I don't need to touch the belts at all, because last year it was running well. I did tighten them last year, but we'll see what it does first, and if I feel then it is kind of slipping, we will then tighten the belts up, but otherwise they're fine. And to do that, 4 bolts, take it off, a little tensioner in here, you tighten up. It's a very, very simple little job. Maybe if we need to do it, we'll show you that on camera at a later stage, but the job is done. Let's get out and get doing a bit of topping with it. Alright, so it's Monday morning, and the mower has been out, hence the reason it's covered in dirt. It does get very dirty because it is a real dirty job, but I'm just after doing that paddock down there. It cut it very, very well. Just cutting now like a hot knife through butter. But anyway, this is the paddock that the cows were in yesterday, and it's well grazed out. But what I will do now is I'm going to top this nice and tight, and the cows are over here behind me just nosying at what I'm talking about, or why I'm talking to myself, more like. I'll top this nice and tight now, and tonight I'll let the cows in here first and let them go over this for about an hour or 2 hours, and they'll clean up all the grass that's left over when I top it. Just clean it all up, and then I'll open a fence here where they are here, just here, and just let them walk straight back in then and into the place to have ready for them for the rest of the night. So if you look at here, you'll see clumps of grass, dark green patches of grass. And if you're not from the farming background, you might wonder, why is that there? Well, each one of those lumps of grass is actually cow pads, cow dung. That's what it is from the last 2-3 rotations. And you can see the way the grass grows around it, and cows don't really want to eat close to that, and you can understand why. But when you come in with the mower, which we'll see here when we have the mowing done, all these cow pads here like this will all get spread across with the bed of the mower, and that's what I really like about the disc mower. Just spreads that all out. You can see here tall grass around a dung pad. It'll cut all that grass, it'll spread it all out across the field. It does 2 jobs in the one run. Anyway, I'm going to close this cover down here, which gets quite heavy with the dung, and we're going to top this field. That's that paddock done. But when you're up here on top of this countryside here, because this here is a very high up spot, and you can see how steep this ground is. It's virtually straight up, and we're not in the highest part here, but look at that for a view. I'm sorry about the wind, but out there you can see the mountains. I think that's out Derry Lynn country, out in Fermanagh. I'm not sure, I think that's what that location is. The mountains, you can see them way in the distance. That's a long way off. It's windy always up here because you're very, very high up. You can see what I showed you there, the way it spreads out the dung patches. Not a great place to show here, I suppose, because you're on a kind of a crown of a hill, but on a flatter spot it spreads it even better. It just splatters that out, and you can see this lumps of thick grass here, and that's unspoiled grass. That's nice lush grass in places. There's more up here than there would be down below, but I'll let the cows in later on this evening, give them about 2 hours in here, and they'll clean up a lot of this, and they love eating it off the ground because they're used to it now. But that's it, today's video is long enough. I'm going to leave it there. Thanks very much for watching as always, and hey, we'll catch you in the next one.